The full moon cast an eerie glow over the deserted high school, its light seeping through the cracks in the drawn blinds. Inside, 3 students, Emily, Jack, and Lisa, wandered the empty halls, their footsteps echoing in the silence. "Why did we agree to do this again?" Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. "It was supposed to be fun," Jack replied, though his tone was far from confident. "A dare, remember? Spend a night in the school, find the hidden keys, and get out before dawn." Emily, the bravest of the 3, led the way. "We just need to stick together. There's nothing to be afraid of." The trio made their way to the gymnasium, their flashlights flickering. The school felt different at night, menacing and alive. Shadows seemed to shift and dance on the walls, and every creak and groan of the old building sent shivers down their spines. They reached the gym and started searching for the first key. The silence was oppressive, broken only by their nervous chatter and the occasional clatter as they rummaged through lockers and storage rooms. Suddenly, Jack froze. "Did you hear that?" The girls stopped, listening intently. At first, there was nothing but the sound of their own breathing. Then, faintly, they heard it, a soft, dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. Emily's grip tightened on her flashlight. "It's probably just the wind." But deep down, they all knew better. The sound grew louder, closer. They turned to see a shadowy figure standing at the far end of the gym. It was a silhouette of a person, completely blacked out, as if the light itself refused to touch it. "Run!" Emily screamed. They bolted through the gym doors, racing down the darkened halls. The figure followed, its movements unnaturally smooth and silent. Panic set in as they realized the entity was gaining on them. They ducked into a classroom, slamming the door behind them. Jack fumbled with a chair, wedging it under the doorknob. They backed away, hearts pounding, as the doorknob rattled violently. "Is it gone?" Lisa whispered, her voice barely audible. Emily peeked through the door's small window. The hallway was empty. "I think so," she said, though she didn't believe it. They stayed in the classroom for what felt like hours, too scared to move. When the silence became unbearable, they decided to make a run for the main office, where they hoped to find the master key to the school. Cautiously, they opened the door and stepped into the hallway. The air felt colder, and an oppressive sense of dread hung over them. They moved quickly, staying close together, their eyes darting around for any sign of the shadowy figure. As they turned a corner, Jack suddenly stopped. "Where's Lisa?" Emily spun around. Lisa was gone. "Lisa!" she called out, her voice echoing down the empty hall. Panic surged through them as they retraced their steps, calling her name. They found her flashlight on the floor, the beam flickering weakly. There was no sign of Lisa. "We have to find her," Emily said, her voice shaking. They continued searching, the fear growing with every passing minute. The school seemed to be twisting and changing around them, as if it were alive and playing with them. Every corner they turned felt unfamiliar, every hallway longer than it should be. Suddenly, the dragging sound returned, louder and more menacing. Emily and Jack turned to see the shadowy figure at the end of the hall, its form more defined now, more menacing. It moved towards them with purpose, and they could feel its malevolent intent. "Run!" Jack shouted. They sprinted through the labyrinthine halls, the figure in relentless pursuit. They burst into the main office, slamming the door shut behind them. Emily frantically searched for the master key, her hands trembling. Jack pressed his ear to the door. "I can't hear it. Maybe we lost it." Emily found the key just as the door shuddered violently. The shadow was there, pounding against the door with a force that shook the entire office. "We have to get out of here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They unlocked the door to the main entrance, only to find the silhouette waiting for them in the foyer. It stood still, as if mocking their futile attempts to escape. "Emily, what do we do?" Jack asked, his voice filled with desperation. Emily's mind raced. There was no way out. The figure was blocking their only exit. "We have to face it," she said, though she was terrified. They stepped forward, flashlights aimed at the figure. The light seemed to have no effect on it, passing through as if it weren't there. As they approached, a cold, suffocating darkness enveloped them. The figure reached out, and Emily felt an icy grip around her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The world began to fade, and the last thing she saw was Jack collapsing beside her, the life draining from his eyes. The next morning, the school was found empty, save for 3 flashlights lying on the floor of the main office. The police searched every corner, but there was no sign of Emily, Jack, or Lisa. The only clue was a series of eerie, blacked-out footprints leading from the gym to the main entrance, where they abruptly ended. To this day, the school remains abandoned, the mystery of the 3 missing students unsolved. But locals say that on a quiet night, you can still hear their desperate footsteps echoing through the halls, and if you're unlucky, you might catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure watching from the darkness.